Okay, hello! Hello, hello, hello! One moment. Ugh. Nope. We are doing the British Raj. One second. Why is what? Why is my model not showing up? Eh? What? Why not? What the fuck? What? VTube Studio, hello? Um... Okay, we have, a wee bit of a crisis right now that was unexpected because all of a sudden the, model stopped working. Ah, love it when stuff happens. Okay, let's figure this out. Okay. Hi, Ghost. We are having problems. Okay, what is going on with you, buddy? Oh, I know what's happening. I know what's happening. I know what's happening. I'm sorry. I'm gonna disconnect from the stream for 1 second. Okay. Okay, so give me a moment. Okay. Excuse me? What? Ah! Why must you do this to me? There we go. We're here! Hello! Hello, hello, hello! Hello! We made it! We're alive! Okay, so we love the scuff. We love early stream scuff. Hello, Mitch. Hello, Link. Hi, Ghost. Hi, Blanket. Hello, hello, hello. Alright, we're okay. We're okay. We are A-okay. Let me just put my iPad... I'm gonna figure out where to put the iPad versus my soup. Because I have soup. Woo! Okay, so... Hello. We are delayed enough, so I'll just get us right into it. Today, we are playing the British Raj to try out the Graveyard of Vampires DLC. And I have heard it is terrible. Like, absolutely terrible. Hello, Wild Gamer! Yes, good soup. It's very good. It is very good soup. But I'm gonna put it down over this way. Okay. Alright, we're here. So, here's what we got. I have never I have never played this DLC. This is my first time playing it. And I haven't played it until now because I've heard it was terrible. And you know what? Let's try it. I just decided to say, screw it, let's try it. We have British Raj because my goal is to you know, remake the East India Company, because war crimes. There's nothing like war crimes. So, yeah, we'll just call them. We'll just call them sad times. That's what we'll call them. I have only... The other thing I will also mention is I have only played a single India game in all of the time I've played Hearts of Iron. So this will be my second India game ever. Which will be fun. Gotta love it. With that in mind, let's take a look at our national spirits. I'm nervous. Princely States, daily autonomy progress gained. Gotta love that. Gotta love that. Marginalized Muslim community. I see nothing's changed. So basically, like, actual India today. Recruitable population factor, minus 20%. Stability, minus 10%. Love to see it. Risk of famine. A famine will trigger if one of these are true. We lose a starting Indian state and fail to take it back within 30 days, Aden being excluded. The new controller is not a releasable that is occupied by us at the start of the game. The new controller is not our subject. The Indian system of food production is very fragile. Even a small interruption might cause a collapse. Great Depression. Ah, yes. I love war crimes. I commit them a lot in Helldivers too. Love to see it. Great Depression. So, great. Alright. It's, okay. Consumer goods factories factor, 40%. Stability, minus 15%. Factory output, minus 15%. Dockyard output, minus 15%. Agrarian society, mobilization speed, minus 72%. Recruitable population factor, minus 72%. Conscription laws cost, plus 216%. Hoovernomics at its finest. Yeah. Yeah. Hoovernomics at its finest. Okay, the local administrators believe that their agrarian lifestyle has made a large part of the Indian population simply unfit for military service or warfare of any kind. They maintain that we should only recruit from the so-called martial tribes. This belief is so widespread and well-entrenched that it will require at least a generation or significant rural investment to overcome. Yeah, that's our leader's name, and, we're just gonna scroll on down here. There we are. Let's just get all these. There we are. Some Halo Wars 2 for us. Attack on Titan tonight? Sure. Sure, I'll be in the server. Okay. So right off the bat, I'm gonna be honest. I understand that there are... historically, and even today, right? Just because... Hi, hello. I may not be an expert on India, but I got to write a paper on it, so I at least know a little bit. Not an expert though, so you know, don't take my word as gospel. That said, it is true that India has historically and up to this day had many problems, many problems, and I understand wanting to reflect that in the tree. I understand wanting to reflect that, or at least in the national spirits. I haven't seen the tree too much yet. I only know that I only looked earlier for the East India Company. So I understand wanting to reflect the struggles of a nation, of a nation state, or in this case, a colony. The problem is that, yeah, it struggled, but India in HoI has always kind of been the... Outside of the United States, India in HoI has kind of always been the counterweight to Japan, if that makes sense. Right? Because the United States always enters the war late. Japan, especially in multiplayer games, always smacks China. The Soviet Union is always going to be preoccupied with the Germans, and will only be able to pay lip service to the Japanese in most games. As a result, the British Raj, or India, has always been the counterweight to Japan. It's always been, what prevents the Japan from getting out of control once the war really breaks out. As well as the Dutch East Indies, depending if you want to have like a Dutch East Indies player, right? But mainly, the two counterweights in the area, with like a little bit of token support from the British, is Australia and India, right? Until the United States gets in the war to curb stomp Japan in the Pacific, in most games. So, you want an India that can get on its feet. If India is just completely screwed, I'm limiting how much I cuss in the early parts of the stream. If India is just completely screwed over, that's problematic for us, for any multiplayer game, because, that leaves Australia to check Japan, and yeah. It's not really possible to do an allied game. Oh, that's even worse. How much time does it take before YouTube doesn't give a damn about swears in streams? Out of curiosity, it varies. I tend to, like, slowly increase how much I try to slowly increase how much I cuss as time goes on. Alright. So, wait, the main complaint is that the Indian tree is that it's not really possible to do an allied game. So, basically, like, India as a counterweight for Japan is just gone? Oh, that's really bad. What the fuck were they thinking? So, I know I was supposed to, like, ease into it, but what the fuck were they thinking? Okay. So, if we do Great Depression price controls, right? Look to the past. Hold on, let's look at this tree here. Secure weapons, stir, look to the past. Price control successfully mitigate the effect of the Great Depression, but consequently, more leaders defending political strength by rallying up the populace, but tales of past greatness. Non-aligned, game-based ability, game-based war support, political power, legacy of Babur, Mughal uprising, Peacock Prince. Peacock Prince. The Mughal legacy demands a worthy leader reclaim its throne. The Peacock Prince must so look to the past, look to the future. Look to the future. We need to look towards the future, not the past, to control this price chaos. A large set of stabilizing measures need to be implemented yesterday. Seek initial funding. We need to seek investment from rich investors in British. I could tell this tree was rushed. Wow. We need to seek investments from rich investors in British as an initial investment to get things started. Lobby Parliament. We will use private Paradox! Guys! We will use private investors lobby Parliament. That the only way forward capitalized to avoid a large-scale worldwide crash again akin to the Great Depression is to sell parts of the Raj to private investors. So, incorporation of the East India Company. After the Great Depression calls for independence, it's clear that the British Crown can no longer bear the burden of governing India. It may lead to temporary instability, but the status quo is not tenable. Appoint a C-suite? A company needs firm leadership focused on growth. Form a security force. We cannot keep an army, but we do have a mandate to equip a police force. Take over administrative rights. In order to withdraw from the region gracefully, the British government has begun outsourcing administrative tasks to our company clerks. Corporate expansion. Privatize healthcare. Hostile takeover. Legalize the opium trade. Third Opium War. So, a private military, lobby for policing responsibilities, manipulate army statistics, open up new markets, Bombay trade port, purchase destroyers and subs, the need for a mercantile navy, take in British naval experts, trade protection, Varunus Task Force, Varunus Armor, Varunus Gun, the Varuna class, institutional money laundering, death knell of the Raj. We have chipped away by taking more and more control of their land. It's time to end this charade and demand take full control of the subcontinent. Just good business. Rebranding. We have achieved historical growth in recent years and achieved a level of political power most corporations could only dream of. However, some states under control still do not see eye to eye with company rule. Maybe a huge influx of monetary compensation can persuade them. Unlocks the decision to core Indian, Pakistani, and Bangladeshi states. Unlocks decisions to core owned states with high compliance using consumer goods factories and political power. Wow. Okay. So yeah, you can't do an allied game. Because this is onto the road of independence. Self-rule. You can't... Oh, this is a terrible tree. Who the fuck thought of this? How is the East India Company more important than an allied game? Have a good night, Link. What the hell were they thinking? Okay. Folks, I have to step away for a brief second because my fiance locked herself and the cat outside. Would you mind bringing me... Oh, never mind. It's okay. Actually, I don't know. Could you bring me the painkillers? Thank you. Okay. Alright, I'm back. Hello. Okay, so you can rejoin the Allies as an independent India? This makes no sense. Okay, so let's see here. Let's see here, folks. What should we do? Capitalism? or rather mercantilism, which is basically just unchecked capitalism. It's complicated. It's complicated. Mercantilism or independent India. Take your pick. I kind of want to do just the... There we are. Thank you kindly. Yeah, tariff everybody. Hoovernomics! Hoovernomics! Let's do it! What would be required to make a good frigate-sized sci-fi warship meant to operate in wolf packs? That largely depends on the universe. If it's a hard sci-fi setting, if it's a soft sci-fi setting, the resources available to you, your technological level, what its mission role is, like, outside of wolf packs. There's not really, like, you can't really just design, like, the perfect frigate. There's no such thing. Defense procurement is very much a short-term... It's a short-term, cycle with a long-term path to the future, with a long-term path down the road, if that makes sense. If I were to try and explain it. Defense procurement depends on necessity. Right? It depends on necessity. What is perceived to be the needs of now and the future will dictate how procurement goes. How procurement goes, right? Because you don't want to risk you don't want to risk, say, the White Fleet. The Great White Fleet. So I love Teddy Roosevelt, right? I love Teddy Roosevelt. So hold on one moment. I'm gonna try and we're gonna do that's right. We're 30 minutes in, haven't even started the game, and I'm already going on a history tangent. Give me one moment. Yes, Opera G. Yes, Opera GX is my browser. So in the early 1900s, Teddy Roosevelt had this little thing called the Great White Fleet, which was basically, if I were to, like, really sum it up, it was basically a fleet of 16 white painted battleships. And they sent it on a world tour, and it was meant to demonstrate naval power and garner international respect. And there was also, like, a lot spent on these battleships. And then the Great White Fleet didn't just encompass the white painted battleships, they're just what's, like, focused on. The Great White Fleet generally is, like, a demonstration of American naval procurement. The thing is that the Great White Fleet, although let me get pictures of it for you guys, right? Although considered very much a successful PR stunt, at least by American scholars, others tend to disagree. Namely, British scholars, at least what I found. So let me get this thing up. Media source. Browse. Where'd I... On. Save image as... Oh, I see. The problem is that, a lot of these ships, even when they were built and procured, were considered almost antique or outdated, or rather, they weren't built for the worlds to come. If that makes any sense. Da 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 da. Yeah. Let me close that. I'm trying. Work with me here, please. Sincerely. Okay, no. I want an image. Give me an image. So, here it is. This is the Great White... This is a picture of them. The Great White Fleet. Yeah. Every boat here was considered basically outdated and antique, even when they were built. And they were not built with the circumstances of the time in mind. And they were pretty quickly, you'll find that a lot of these, I don't necessarily know about the fate of the ships of the White Fleet. I don't. But you'll find that there's a reason the United States I know the United States moved on from it fairly quickly. So what is the point I'm trying to make here? The point I'm trying to make here is you want to avoid mistakes like these, where wasn't the HMS Dreadnought built around the same time the fleet set sail? Around that time, yeah, around that time, give or take. But the point I'm trying to make is you want to avoid procuring something that you're going to want to you're going to want to avoid procuring something that's just not going to be able to hold itself up for the years to come. You want something that addresses your current needs and is also able to adjust for future needs as time develops. Now, obviously, you don't want to just, like, keep upgrading and upgrading and upgrading and upgrading. I'm gonna start the game now. You don't want to just keep upgrading and upgrading and upgrading and upgrading until, because eventually you're going to need to replace it. The goal isn't to make something that you never replace. The goal is to make something that, you know, will last you long enough to actually, like, jeez. You know what? No. You want something like... Here's a good example. You want something like the F-15. The F-15 is still getting upgrades and still has... And its life has been extended constantly through things like the F-15EX. Right? So getting back to it, there's not really, like, a perfect frigate. And I also think it's a bit of, Unity Tech, Galactic, Mantaka's recon spec ups deployment outside of full packs. Well, at that point, you wouldn't have a frigate. At that point, you wouldn't have a frigate. You'd have an intrusion. You'd want something like an intrusion corvette. Frigates are... Oh, God. Loyalty to Britain. Noted. Invader. Engineer. Will I lose him if I do the India company? Well, we'll find out. What boats do I got? Do I have any? Doesn't look like it. Any planes? Huh. Noted. Okay. No, we're not gonna exercise it. What's our production look like? Yeah, that tracks. What's our divisions? It's actually not that bad. Ah, shit. Mouse. You know, frigates... Yeah, no, recon and deployment of Spec Ops, that's not something you'd want to... I mean, a frigate could do it, but... Like, why would it? It's a bit of a waste. You don't want an intrusion corvette for that, or something more dedicated to the role. Okay, so it looks like I just wait at this point. You know what? I'm actually going to... This is gonna kind of... I know I only have so many... I know I only have so many civilian factories. That said, I want... Not enough manpower. What's our garrison look like? Hold on. Quick territory. What's our district garrison? What do district garrisons look like? Whoa! They should not be... Manpower per suppression, manpower per division. Yeah, we want this. Okay. Trade port. Look to the future. We're gonna quickly do the trade port. And let's see what we got. Princey say, did depression price controls, consumer goods factories factor 15%, weekly stability minus 2%, and our stability is already kind of low, so that sucks, but we'll be okay. We'll be okay. I am gonna save up for... Alright. Operations. We want... We want anti-partisan. There we go. Because we want to root out the resistance. That's what we want, first and foremost. Anti-partisan. Yep, because that's why. Question of Aden. As planned by we are hand over the province of Aden to them. We could probably push them to keep it if we hand it over. Hold on a minute. We'll hand it. We'll hand it over. I don't feel like pissing off Big Papa right now. Oh, shit. That was... Oh, wait, was that... That was being built in Aden. I'm an idiot. Okay, so I'm stupid. Good to know. Hopefully that didn't kill me early game. You know what? Let's restart. Let's restart. Since we're basically at the beginning. Let's restart. Let's quickly restart. Exit the menu. Honestly, I class as frigate because I consider corvettes to be giant gunboats rather than frigates, which Templin Institute put it when describing frigates. They are the most modifiable ship type out there. Okay, one moment. Let me get Spartan in on this. This is Spartan's more of the ship class guy. I am the defense procurement person. I am the defense procurement person. He is the one I go to for these things. So one moment. Okay, and while I wait for Spartan to respond, I am going to do new game. Just so I can, just for transparency, so you guys can see, I'm gonna go to regular and Iron Man mode. Regular, Iron Man mode, historical focus. Bam. Okay. Don't much about ship stuff. I'm more of a boot on the ground guy. Right. Let's see if I can get him. But I'm hoping I can get him. Worst comes to worst, I don't. So agency being formed, and while that goes, we are going to get that. I want to develop that, that, and that. We're just gonna do blanket development, honestly, just because we can. We're also gonna do convoys. Hold on, do we have a company that can do it? No, I guess we don't. Guess not. Occupy territories. We're gonna switch over to the Rajput. Just simply because we don't have manpower. Ah. See if I can grab him. Doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to get Spartan. That's okay, though. So we have no boats outside of the darn, we have no boats outside of the darn 20 convoys. Lovely. Our army is interesting. Now, given... I have a feeling we're gonna be fighting the... I think you should stack industry around Bombay if you go east industrial around Bombay. Well, I'm thinking about resources, but where is Bombay, actually? Hold on. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so here we go. 1,000 Sisters of Battle versus 1,000 Helldivers. Oh, Helldivers, and it's not even fucking close. And I love the Sisters of Battle much more than I love the Helldivers. You know, the Helldivers can actually call for, like, reliable, you know, reliable fucking, fire support from in many ways, and it's accurate, and it's real time, and they have, like, and they have up to... We know for a fact they have some form of data link to their ships, and presumably they... And I... Look, I love the 40K's Imperial Navy, but its prowess is significantly... I see. Good, thank you for letting me know. Okay. We're just gonna cancel all real quick. Not like we really made any progress, so... Now, pound for pound, are Sisters of Battle the better warriors? Yeah. Like, the issue isn't that, we're gonna build the trade port. The issue isn't that the Sisters of Battle are, like, pound for pound, like, I would say the Sisters of Battle are better as fighters, and even, depending on the order, as soldiers than the Helldivers. Again, depending on the order. The problem is the Super Earth Armed Forces. Nope, keep it. The Super Earth Armed Forces, like, actually have a functioning military. Widespread protests against British rule have erupted in major states. Disperse the crowd. Where's this? Oh, man. Okay. We're gonna disperse the crowd because we can... So where is resistance the worst? There. Yeah, so we can put this guy on root out resistance. There. Right, and then we're gonna do more anti-partisan. I mean, I love the Sisters of Battle, but the Sisters of Battle can't, you know, can't call for cast and have a 500-pound bomb put on the forehead of a target, like, within, you know, 15 seconds. I'm sorry to say. Like, I'm not talking about the soldiering skills here. I'm talking purely that a functional military is gonna win. Not to mention, like, I don't know enough Helldivers lore to confidently say this, but I have a strong feeling that pound for pound... I have a sneaking suspicion that, I don't necessarily know how Super Earth's Navy works. I don't know, I don't know if it's gonna be able to... How do I put this? Also, hold on. Has Spartan responded yet? He has. I don't... Yes, he has. Spartan, if you are watching, I will hop in Patreon chat so you can clarify something for us. Hold on one moment. Shit. There's our guy. 1 second, Spartan. I need to quickly... 1 second, Spartan. I need to quickly turn down the game volume up. Okay. Game options, audio. We're just gonna turn the music down a little bit. All right. Hi. Can you speak for me? Why? Okay. For some reason, I can't hear you. Listen, video. Okay, now I can hear you.
All right.
Cool. Now I can hear you. Okay, so basically, there was a question asked by Wild Gamer. They asked me, like, if I could design, what would be required to make a good frigate-sized sci-fi warship meant to operate in wolf packs? So I clarified, like, I'd need specifics, you know, like, are we doing hard sci-fi, soft sci-fi, blah, 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 blah. So they clarified UNSC Tech with, Galactic Army of the Republic resources, with it meant to act as a recon and spec ops deployment outside of wolf packs. And I kind of said, well, you know, if its primary thing is intrusion and if its primary role here is intrusion and forced and forced point for like uh you know soft, at that point you're not really looking for a frigate, you're looking for something like an intrusion corvette, right? um so they responded by saying, I class it as a frigate because I consider corvettes to be giant gunboats rather than frigates, which Templin is to put it when describing frigates. They are the most modifiable ship type out there. That's their reply, and I don't necessarily know. You're the ship guy, so take it.
let's start. The issue with that argument of a gun, corvettes are oversized gunboats. No, and yes. Let's start off with the fun part. Let's start off with that. So a corvette refers to a vessel smaller than a destroyer or a frigate in many cases, though in some navies they just have to be smaller than a destroyer because the term frigate and destroyer are used interchangeably. And the frigate, the corvette, represents a smaller limited range warship designed to do patrol and engage certain things. So in the case of World War II, we had a lot of corvettes that were patrolling the Atlantic. They could reach decently into the Atlantic. Their job was to engage do anti-submarine war, SFW warfare throughout the Atlantic, and they were cheap to produce, quick to produce, carried limited armament, and they had that one role. You can make a multi-role corvette. Let's not pretend we haven't. But usually the thing about a corvette is that it doesn't have long-term persistence for significant power projection.
Hold on. It looks like hold on. They're having a hard time hearing you. That's not Spartan. That's me. I'll turn up the. Let me adjust the volume for y'all. Okay. Speak for me.
Hello.
Okay, that's loud. Speak again.
Hello.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
All right. You want me to start from the beginning?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so let's start with what I said was let's start with the interesting point, which is the what is a corvette? Is it an oversized gunship? What is a gunship? Is a corvette a gunship? Yes and no. Why does this matter? Who is designing it and who is considering it? So first thing, for the Canadians, the British, the Australians, New Zealand Navy, even the Indian Navy, if we use World War II as an example, a corvette was a small ship meant to do a specific role. Now if I look up, just quick, and I'll give you the name of a class. If I look up World War II corvettes, the most famous one is the Flower class, also known as Gladiatorius class. The British built 294 of these things, and they were specifically used for anti-submarine convoy escorts. In the U.S. service, they were often known as Temptress or Action Class Patrol gunboats. So you see the notice there? We've already have a shift. Everybody else classifies them as corvettes. The French, the Americans classify them as gunboats. Now, as Wikipedia cites it, the term corvette was originally a French name for a small
Just to clarify, Spartan doesn't normally cite Wikipedia as a source. This is just
I'm reading verbatim. It's easier to explain this way, and I'm not instead of me. I'm reading it off because it is kind of the term corvette. Basically, it was inspired by a French Navy term. It's a small sailing ship in between a frigate and a sloop of war. Now, a sloop of war is what we call a gunship because it had a single gun deck. It was a gunship. The reason why his term ended up changing is because the British used it in the 1830s and later as a sailing warship, roughly similar size, primarily operating in the shipping protection role. So a corvette was something that protected shipping. But later on in World War II, and even to an extent World War One, the term sloop started being used to refer to convoy defense vessels, including the Flower class, the original Flower class of World War One, and then the Black Swan class. The Black Swan class was bigger. It was 299 feet in length. To put it in perspective, the reason I bring that up is the now mentioned Corvette, which was just doing one run, was 205 feet. They displaced over 1,000, about 400 tons larger, and there were only 42 of them built. Now, the reason this matters is because these terms are so interchangeable and so different to use, you can't really classify a Corvette as a gunboat, and you can't convise a gunboat as a Corvette, because they mean largely whatever they want to mean, and it's whatever we want to assign. In the case of Templin Institute, they're most likely using, again, the American term, which is to refer to an oversized ship that has guns and can fight, but they don't have the range and all that. But in the common British thinking Royal Navy inspired navies, not the American, the Canadian, Australian, New
Commonwealth,
Zealand,
just general Commonwealth.
Commonwealth in general, even the French, the Hellenistic, the Belgian, etc. All these navies, they would be a Corvette would just be referring to a ship with a specific role, unable to do multi-role purposes, because the Flower classes specifically didn't carry very good AA armament, but they had very good they could pin submarines very well. They only had one gun, but they had a lot of depth charges and even minesweeping gear. Versus the Black Swan sloops, which were larger and could be classified as gunboats. Why? Because they carried 2 guns and a ton of AA and depth charges. They could carry 110 depth charges, and they carried a ton of AA guns. They were a multi-role ship designed for convoy escort as a whole thing, which were meant to do like everything. And the sloops were equal to American destroyer escorts, which were destroyer-sized ships, but they were called sloops, which is a term that originally meant something smaller than a corvette. So as you can see, these terms don't work. They're whatever the Navy that they want is going to assign them to. And in reality, what Anne is using it based on a size category, which would be the idea of a corvette is smaller than a frigate, and a frigate is smaller than a destroyer, which is smaller than a cruiser, which is smaller than a battle cruiser, which is smaller than a battleship, and then a carrier can fall between the spectrum of cruiser to battleship, usually. And then you got super carriers, which are always meant to be very large. Now that is a common sci-fi thinking.
I was more so thinking about its role, but yeah, size too.
And 9 times out of 10, a lot of people think Corvette small, frigate bigger, destroyer bigger, and the roles they do mean the ship has to be bigger.
Yeah, which is not
specifically for something like Star Wars. That's untrue, because we have corvettes that are larger than ships classified as frigates, and frigates that are classified in the same reign as Star Destroyers. So Star Wars is even worse because it's more like modern history, where it's whatever your armament is and like your specific role. It doesn't really matter your size or how long ranged you are, that you can do the job. It kind of gets really strange.
Yep. I mean, like an example. I mean,
Anne's argument of the Corvette being the small, like the ship that you want to hunt in wolf packs and do intrusion work. Yeah, that usually would be a Corvette, because a Corvette is smaller than a frigate. A frigate is usually designed for what we like to multiple roles, like multi-role in all of it. It can do everything, a little bit of everything, and you can specialize it to do 1 or 2 things with free fits, of course. And it has good amount of range, and it can escort modern ships. Well, a Corvette really can't escort because it doesn't have the armament, the stand-up fight thing. But if it's in a wolf pack, it can pick on other ships and then get out of there through intrusion and other methods. And then a destroyer is taking a frigate, giving it bigger armament, longer range, allow it to lead a pack of frigates because it usually carries command gear and such. And that's what the current American doctrine would be. A Corvette would be something that you would see at the smallest scale, and those would be usually patrol ships around the American coast. Those might be in the hands of the Coast Guard. In fact, they still are. And actually, the Coast Guard classifies its vessels as corvettes or patrol boats. And then the American Navy has recently started construction of the Constellation class frigates based on a French design, and those ships are supposed to be operating exactly as you said in Wolfpack and short-range Wolfpack operations to do the role of picking on larger ships because there's so many of them. They're going to be produced in a large amount of numbers. The Navy expects it can field 5 of these constellations for every ally Burke it can produce, or up to even 10 of these constellations for every ally Burke it can produce. So that is a level of difference. And then we destroy the destroyer, which is what I just described, as destroyers nowadays have entered into the cruiser role, very much a multi-role lead ship that handles operations at a large scale and can lead packs of frigates, which will most likely be happening. The constellations will provide support, and an ally Burke will lead it, and then you can attach other ships as needed, amphibious assault ships, a carrier, and it frees up the Navy to concentrate force in a different way. And then you get, while not produced on the books, records of what the like the Tiger Rondas, which are slowly finishing their last retirement cycles, and then the idea of their replacement, which was never manifested, but that would have been about 5,000 to 6,000 tons more in displacement than your average ally Burke. It would have done more. It would have been designed to do more damage than any of them, carry more armament, and have a much larger range and command a group of ally Burkes as a command ship. And then you have, of course, we don't talk about battleships. They're not relevant to modern naval technology at all. They would never be relevant because you can just make 2 destroyers that combined will carry the same armament and can do that. And that means if one's knocked out, you're not losing as much. But a carrier can then be escorted by these cruisers because, to give an example again, in the British common thinking, a cruiser nowadays would be classified as a fleet command ship, or a large destroyer would be very large destroyer would be classified as a cruiser because it's a fleet command ship. It's meant to do more than just specific roles. The British devise their ship by role. For example, any ship that is anti-air, anti-ship, all that is a destroyer. Anti-submarine vessels and anti-ship vessels are frigates. And then corvettes are ships smaller than that to do very specific niche roles. So, again, I've kind of rambled for a while here, but the terms don't really mean anything until you decide what navy you're talking about, and even then, those terms can change.
Those terms can change. I'm, the first thing I think of is the damn battleship.
Yes. The battleship has battlecruiser and battleship have very different terms depending on the navy you're talking to, and what their roles are depends on the navy battleship. It's the same with capital ship. Because Ghost asked me, I haven't directly played the DLC. I know some people that have played it. It's half-baked.
Half-baked as fuck.
Most HoI4 DLCs, it breaks a ton of trees because they didn't make it to think, which is pretty normal to work with others. And it suffered from the thing that Battle of the Bosporus started with, that all the new focus trees, bar the Indian one, I believe, suffer from the idea of by the time you get through your economic tree and building a small your economy up enough to where you feel comfortable with fighting a war on the most limited scale, the game has already devolved into World War III. Not even 2, 3. And nukes are about to start flying because people are not really haven't really engaged with a lot of history with that. But I hope that kind of helps answer your question. I know it's kind of like a non-answer. That's just kind of what we deal with in the historical field for a lot of these things.
Yeah, there's a reason
paper.
I'll just quickly add this. There's a reason I was pulling my hair out when doing the video on the Vindication, just simply because I was going to Spartan, I was going to other people. I was just asking, okay, what the hell is a battleship? Can you give me a definition? And they're like, oh.
What was my response? There isn't one.
Yeah, your response was there isn't one. But you said if there is a term that you just a blanket thing, armed and armored enough to excuse me, threaten all other ships.
Yeah, I said yeah, okay, I remember what I said now. Perfect example. So there isn't a blanket term for battleship or battlecruiser.
Excuse me.
And there also isn't even a blanket term for what a capital ship is. Capital ship changes. But for a period, a capital ship referred to something armed and armored enough to threaten all other vessels, which would mean, i.e., a battleship could threaten all other vessels because armament and armament could armor and armament made it a capital ship, and it could threaten all other vessels in the area. A carrier was a capital ship because its armor, while not enough to threaten anyone else because it really didn't have strong armor, its armament and range allowed it to threaten all other vessels in the area. And that is why we now call when people talk about a capital fleet in the Navy, they're talking about two ships. They're carriers and they're nuclear submarines, / on occasion regular submarines, because a submarine is quick enough, fast enough, silent enough, and carries armament, depending on the armament, to threaten everything else, including land. You would say that, but historically, the last produced, the Americans went to larger guns. The British's last produced battleships used 14-inch guns, and were very respectable and could penetrate comparable to the Iowa's 16-inch guns, depending on angle and on penetration, all that, blah, 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 blah. While being lighter, designed to be lighter, massively lighter. That is according to the London Naval Treaty, or the Second Washington Naval Treaty, the maximum displacement for a battleship's guns was supposed to be 14 inches prior to the escalation treaty's invocation. The escalation clause being invoked in the treaty, which allowed all signatures to upgun their current under construct battleships or next generation of construction to 16-inch guns. The Americans designed their ships to be able to take 16-inch guns from the start, so you guys paused construction, got the new mounts in, and that's the North Carolinas and South Dakotas, and then the Iowas later with their more advanced, instead of 45s, 16-15s. The British were already longer into their construction of their King George V classes, their second King George. Be careful, there's a Dreadnought class of the same name. That carried 14 inchers and different mounts, but their next planned battleship, the Lions, were going to be larger, bigger, and carry 16-inch guns. Or if we go back to World War I, the last battleships that were being produced by all powers were expected to mount 18-inch guns, and the battle cruisers were expected to mount minimum 16-inch guns. So the armament of a battleship, directly its caliber, doesn't matter. What matters is if it can threaten other ships in the area. And King George could. It could bully any other ship in the area, and if it fought a battleship, it could still fight a battleship. That's what mattered in the long run for ships like it, and that's why a nuclear submarine is the same thing, because an attack submarine, or even just an ICBM carrying submarine, can threaten any other ship because it does carry torpedoes and can sink any other ship with its torpedoes if it gets a good hit. And on top of that, it can, due to its range, threaten any landmass in the area, making it the true definition of a capital ship. It can threaten anything else in existence with its mere presence in the sea. It is fleet and being doctrine taken to the extreme. And these terms, depending on the universe, do change. Some people like to assign this idea that a capital ship needs to be something larger than a certain thing, but if
not me personally.
Yeah, if you're talking, but to, let's say, the Hellenistic navies, not the Hellenistic navies, i.e., like of ancient antiquity, but like the Hellenistic Navy of Greece, or the any of the Balkan nations there of the current timelines, a cruiser is a capital ship to them, because in their area, that thing is armed and armored enough to threaten all other ships in existence throughout the post-war, World War I, pre-war, post-war, interwar, and into World War II period. We see the escalation of what the term capital ship means in Latin America through the Dreadnought arms race of the early 1900s, which only stopped due to the collapse of multiple economies down there, which meant frivolous military spending was unable. But by the end of the conflict, before the conflict finished and on order, were some of the most heavily armed and largely armored, fastest dreadnoughts ever devised for the period prior to the Queen Elizabeth classes and the Colorados, which were the standard class battleships that the Americans devised with 16-inch guns, both of which those ships, specifically Queen Elizabeth became the first ever fast battleships because at flank they could move at 24 knots while the rest of the battle line was moving about 19 to 20, and even at 1/3, 2/3, which is mostly what you would do not flank, they were still moving at around 21 knots on an average day. And of course, we see the battle speed increase in World War II with things like the King Georges moving to 28, the South Dakotas and North Carolinas 28, 28, 28, the Iowa's famous 33 to 35 knots, and battle cruisers focus on that, with the Bismarcks doing also around 28. But if we look on drawing board construction prior to that period, battle line speed was still going to be about 24, 25 knots. No one was really going to move on to that. It wasn't until treaty limitations meant that you could only have a certain amount of battleships and a certain size class that people started to think that engines, if we have smaller guns but bigger engines, we can get more places, which means the ship can do more things. And stronger engines mean you could do other things, such as carry more armor and all that, which had the nice side effect of increasing speed. It's very much a thing that only happens. It doesn't. Nothing in history with ship design happens in a vacuum, and nothing of ship design. Nothing really changes that. Dimension. The 15 to 16 inch would refer to the length of the barrel. Diameter would be that 50 that I mentioned. Well, actually, no, I lied. It's the opposite. It would be 16 by 50. So you'd have a 50-inch gun that's 16 inches in diameter firing a shell. And that 5 extra inches compared to the 45s, which were mounted on the Colorados, North Carolinas, and South Dakotas. Be careful which South Dakota you find, because there's the historically produced South Dakotas, and then there's the never started construction South Dakotas from 2000 from the 1920 early 1920s that were meant to carry 18-inch guns. Rizane asked me, kind of, yeah, that's nothing. That's actually really good to him. Nothing ever happens in a vacuum. The Venators were not, as much as the community really likes to like them, and I'm going to catch some flack for this, they're not good capital ships. They're good cruisers, but they're not good capital ships. They carry very minimal armament. Their amount of carrying capacity for fighters is never in canon, like the current Disney canon has never been quantified. And in Legends is based off one source book, which I believe has a misinterpretation of how it was written, because if you look at how it's describing its fighter capacity, it's describing it in exact numbers for every single same craft. So what I'm thinking is that what it was saying is, hey, I can carry 192 of this type, or this type. Not I can carry 192 of these guys at the same time. Frankly, it just can't fit that many fighters when you actually get down to the nitty-gritty math. But why this matters is because it had limited thing, its armor was not as heavy, and I choose the top one.
Yeah, I'm looking. I was just looking.
Yeah, some people do classify them as carriers, but the thing is, because they have a battle line role, they're to use a Russian term, they're more like aviation cruisers. They're carrying fighters. Believe it or not,
I'm not laughing at that. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just.
Believe it or not, the term aviation cruisers, while it in and of itself is just a whole thing that the Russians did to get around a treaty, because they slapped a few guns and missiles on just a carrier. It was just a CLL. It was a CLN light carrier, or an escort carrier that they just slapped some heavier guns on, so it met the requirements to be considered a cruiser under a treaty definition, so it could go for the Bosporus Straits. But the term aviation cruiser, i.e. a cruiser that is carrying armament but also has aviation carriers capacity, or in this case aerospace capacity, would be the correct term for something like the Venator, or other ships in Star Wars that have this hybrid role. You could also use the Battlestar term Battlestar, because when you say Battlestar, people think of an armed ship that carries fighters. So, but these ships are multi-role and designed to do a specific thing. In the case of the ISD, it carries quadruple the firepower, i.e., it needs 3 Vantors at minimum to make an ISD-1. It carries better point defense, and as much as people like to say, oh, it discounts the fighter capacity, an ISD can stay at range longer, still carries a division of ground troops, still carries enough supplies to establish a ground garrison base, and still carries 92 fighters and bombers. Which means that yes, a Venator would have more fighters. But due to the fact that how Star Wars works, and the fact that this Venator would have to push in to engage in a 1v1, and even if it was carrying, let's say, again, in my opinion, unrealistic 400 fighters it can carry, those fighters are only on par with a TIE fighter in many cases. The V-Wings are not, the famous V-Wings are not much better. Either model of them, the Torrent V-Wing or the V-Wing that we see later in Revenge of the Sith, which is the TIE fighter-like ship that makes the same engine noise but isn't a TIE fighter. Those ships are slower than TIEs in maneuverability in other ways, and especially slower than TIE interceptors. And by the end of Empire Strikes Back, ISD-1s were only carrying TIE bombers and TIE interceptors. They had lost their TIE fighters. They were stopped carrying TIE fighters in many cases unless they were on minimalized garrison duty, which means a TIE interceptor, which can keep up with an A-wing and run rings around an X-wing, is going to murder these out-of-date fighters that a Venator would carry. And if you want a Venator for its carrying capacity as a Rebel Alliance fan, or at that point, just use a Moncal ship, because a Moncal ship has better armament, better shields, can last longer in combat, has more thing, and while carrying less fighters, only carrying around the same amount as an ISD, is carrying pound for pound better fighters. Or just use a dedicated carrier like in Legends, Quan Flanc, or other, or Quasar, or there's a few other escort carriers that the Rebels actually get in Legends that are not yet in canon, but they will probably be added later. And those ships can just carry squadrons, because the advantage of at least in Legends, of the Rebels' later fighters was that they had a miniaturized hyperspace drive allowing deep strikes, i.e. what we do today, because they had the range to be capable of it, which is something that old Republic fighters couldn't do outside of the ARC 170, and the ARC 170 required a 3-man crew to accomplish it, and an X-Wing carries the same amount of firepower, better shields, can turn faster, is faster, and carries the same armament, including torpedoes. It carries more torpedoes, actually. Proton torpedoes. So what you're looking at compared to the Venator to the ISD is the shrinkage of aircraft carrier wings in the post-war era of World War II into the Cold War era. As we efficiently designed multi-role ships that could do everything, we started seeing this shrinkage of the need for more than one type of ship. We no longer need
Sorry, hold on. The crabs got her! The crabs! No! The crabs got her again! Carry on.
The stream just updated for that. So, a fleet interceptor, for example, in let's say 62, you needed a fleet interceptor. You needed some sort of anti-ship strike capability fighter. Those usually weren't the same thing. You needed an AWACS bird, and you needed something able to do anti-submarine warfare. So you need like 4 to 5 types of things on a carrier. Nowadays, in the modern, on a Gerald Ford, or on a British Queen Elizabeth, or on a French, on the French Charles de Gaulle, or on the Izumo helicopter destroyers, you need an F-35 and a helicopter, and you've covered every single role 9 times out of 10. For the Americans, you might throw some F-18s in there, maybe some F-16s. They're both carrier capable, but 9 times out of 10, an F-35 and a helicopter can do everything you need in a modern air wing. And then you have and then for AWACS, you have a single AWACS bird, usually deployed on a ship, the larger bird, and that's it. That's all you have. You have a navalized AWACS bird. So that's you need 3 at max. So we've cut the amount of fighters needed or amount of platforms needed on a ship in half nowadays, and that's what the Empire and the Rebels did. You went from needing 3 to 4 platforms to fulfill a role, because if you think about it, you had the V-wings, which are interceptors. You had the Arc, literally standing for reconnaissance craft. You had your reconnaissance craft. You had your bombers in the form of the Y-wing, and you had like an actual fighter defense ship in the form of the V-wings, etc. Like you had all these different classifications of ships, of aerospace craft, because you needed them. And then along comes the X-wing, like its name is the F4 Phantom, and it's going to replace 90% of them overnight. Along comes the TIE Fighter, which does the same thing, because both of them do that. The TIE Fighter does it by being cheap and mass producible and carrying enough armament and speed and all that to outstrip any of the interceptors while still having sufficient enough range to match, to operate as a long range, as an interceptor, but at the same time being fast enough and all that to operate as an air defense fighter, which means all you need is a bomber. Because Star Wars doesn't really deal with like sensor, like scanning ships like this is other hard sci-fis or such.
Yeah, in Star Wars you can fucking hide.
And then in the for the Rebels you had the X-wing and the Y-wing, and then you had the A-wing later, which was a hell on wheels fighter designed for just super fast boom and zoom. But even then, it was 9 times out of 10. All you needed to succeed as a Rebel Alliance was an X-wing and some type of bomber, whether it be the Y-wing or the B-wing. It didn't really matter what model of bomber you had. You just needed a bomber. The only reason the Y-wing really started to be phased out was because the design was like 40 to 55 years old, and half the ones the Rebels had were like Iranian F-14s and like falling apart at the gills. In the modern day, that's the same thing. An F-35 can at one moment be doing interception, long-range interception, the next moment doing air defense, the next moment spotting a strike on an enemy carrier, and the moment after that, it can be doing pinpoint ground strikes anywhere on the globe, as long as it has range to release its missions. Because
or
the fun thing about the F-35's got, let's say, 60 kilometers of range.
Your Honor, he hasn't addressed my main point of the stripe being sick, therefore the
90% of them didn't have the stripe.
That is true. Most of them didn't have the stripe.
And that was at least an old legend specific to the Open Circle fleet, with the Open Circle design and the red on there, which was a limited portion of the Republic Navy. The rest were just straight up. They had a little bit of red on them to identify them as Republic ships, because red was the Republic color. But besides that, there weren't the stripes on all of them. It was the Open Circle and the red stripe represented the Open Circle fleet. The F-35 can do it all, and then it has munitions that can reach 120 to 30 kilometer ranges. So technically, if you push the damn thing to its maximum range, capable of a return flight, you can probably hit a target 200 kilometers away from where you are, and it will still lays in perfectly and hit, because the munition has that range, as long as it can get a return or there's something data linking it from that area, which means it hits a satellite and bounces back. So an F-35 can do all that, and then a helicopter is our current, besides torpedoes, because that's what we use for anti-submarine warfare these days, not depth charges, torpedoes. The helicopters are used for anti-submarine warfare. So that's 2 types of ships, and then an AWACS bird is the only reason we haven't made an F-35 an AWACS bird is because you just can't make something that small an AWACS bird yet. Give it a decade or so, they'll figure it out.
I mean, depending on how some of the
will do a funny thing.
I mean, depending on how some of the 6th gens projects go, we might see a chance for a 6th gen AWACS, just simply because, given some of the requirements on some of these damn projects, these things are gonna be fucking huge.
I mean, we recently got a timeline for when the Japanese government released a timeline for when they think their 6th gen, which is partnered with the British and the Italians at the current moment, is expected to be fully produced. They expect to have starting up operation in 2030, so in 5 years.
I wouldn't know.
It's not called Tempest anymore, Hedgehog, sadly. The British might still call it Tempest in their service, but the design itself isn't called Tempest anymore. One thing I can, though, going back to the whole point of Star Wars, the ISD, the reason I bring up all this is the ISD addressed the issues that Vantor had. It couldn't sit in a battle line while still carrying a capable flight wing armament that could, in fact, defend itself and or spot strikes if need be against enemy capital ships, while carrying a much heavier AA armament than the Vantor to therefore deter strikes against it by, at the time, armaments. The rebels, however, yes, counter this, but it's through specific tactics, and it depends on the variant of what book we're talking about. The best example I can give is that a lot of times people describe Star Wars AA as ineffective or based on World War II flak guns, and then if you read some of the X-Wing novels or the Thrawn trilogy, or you go play the X-Wing games, if you get in close to an ISD within a certain range, like I think it's like a 4-kilometer range inside the X-Wing games, you die. There is nothing you can do. You are dead. You are gone. You cease to exist on the material plane. You are now there and then, not anything else. And that all depends on the book. In the movies, we don't see that because it's World War II in space. And then, it's World War II hybridized with Vietnam in space, which is why the X-Wing exists, because the X-Wing is the F-4 Phantom that could do the naval strike, that could do the fleet roll, that was hell on wheels, that was cool, that was awesome looking. And the Y-Wings were your older bomb trucks that the Navy still had in service at the time, while the TIE fighters were your cheap MiGs. Yeah, I went there. And then in the Clone Wars, Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith, those fighters are all World War II models, shorter range, needing more of them to do rolls, slugging battles, and these line battles famed from World War I or the Age of Sail to show the technological difference, even though the prequels feel like they have a more advanced technological edge due to visuals. They really don't. And then if we look at, so that's the big thing that has it. So we have a doctrinal change to the ISD, and then we have the big change from the ISD-1 to the ISD-2 is the removal of a large amount of those point defense guns, the doubling down on the interceptors as your only need for a point defense as a ship-based role, and the increasement of heavy armament. Specifically because the no longer with the presence of Mon-Cal capital ships could an ISD-1 quickly and efficiently remove multiple targets from the field with very little threat to itself. So they said, hey, we need more armament at the cost of an anti-fighter armament, except for the fact that the rebels very rarely actually deployed their capital ships, keeping them in a fleet and being doctrine, and instead used navalized fighter strikes.
I can make special economic zones.
Yes.
Oh, that's kind of funny.
Shareholders' democracy, Anne.
Ah, gotta love it. New economic policy. Add capital investment model. We will adhere to a model that promotes capital investment and growth of enterprise by having low taxes and business-friendly policies. Expand tax loopholes.
It trickled down. So
Indian Reaganomics.
Indian Reaganomics. Well, I don't even think your guy's Indian. I think he's British. So it's just regular astronomics.
Honestly, that is true. That is true.
British did call them that.
Yeah, that is, and I mean, technically speaking, Thatchernomics came before Reaganomics. If anything, Reagan got it from Thatcher, if I recall correctly.
Well, they really got it from Jimmy Carter, but that's a different debate. That's a different debate.
Oh,
We're not getting into that one on stream.
Oh boy. That'll be a fun talk later.
But the point I'm bringing up is that each thing doesn't happen in a vacuum. The Rebel Alliance had to focus on its fighters because it didn't feel it had enough capital ships to perform a doctrine. But it knew that if it was able to use its fighters to seek decisive engagements and slowly pick away at the Imperial fleet,
I could
just
buy
like
the
the
Falkland
U.S. did
Islands.
in World War II to the Japanese Navy through carrier strikes
That's actually kind
and
of cool.
specific slowly piecemeal engagements. It could slowly whittle down the Imperial war machine to have a large-scale victory. The Imperial Navy, on the other hand, was the Japanese Imperial Navy. It wanted a decisive battle. It was arming its navy for this idea that the rebels now have capital ships. It needs the biggest, baddest capital ships imaginable to start slamming
One big
into
decisive battle to end the war.
one big decisive. Yeah, exactly. Where they're going to destroy the
They
rebels
got
in
that
this one
battle.
big decisive battle.
They
Which
got
is
it twice.
exactly what, which is exactly what they try to do at Endor, and they fail to do it at Endor
And Jakku,
because
arguably.
nah, Jakku comes afterwards, and I'm going to refer to Legends here because Legends is
A bit more
fleshed
clear.
out when it comes to
Yeah.
things like the ISD and that. And the specific thing is that in Legends, we see the retirement of a lot of ISD2s, or destruction of them because they're sitting targets to this fighter-based carrier doctrine. But we later ISD1s on both sides receive much longer lifespans because even an ISD-1 can have its fighter bays quickly retrofitted to carry X-Wings, Y-Wings, and B-Wings, and suddenly you have a massively powerful capital ship with the best firepower, though not the greatest shields, that is carrying advanced fighters that exactly allow it to suddenly perform the role that the Vtuber did for the Republic, but better in every way because it's carrying better fighters, even if it's carrying less of them, with better armament, better point defense, able to hammer that home. It's faster, etc. That is a really big thing that is undervalued about the ISD-1. Depends on the New Republic Navy. So in Legends, it was a back and forth for a very long time. By the Dark Fleet Crisis and later, the New Republic pound for pound had better fighters, better capital ships, better gunships, better corvettes, destroyers, frigates, and everything, and was slowly modernizing its fleets with things like the Endurance class fleet carrier, the Nebulous class Star Destroyer, the Republic class Star Destroyer, the MC-90, and
I love the
started
Nebula.
producing advanced corvettes like the Corona and Dutch that were very much very good ships, though a large portion of it was still using MC-80Bs, which were a purpose-built retrofit warship of MC-80s A designs and others to make them more efficient at capital grade warfare as an interim map to the later MC-90s. But it was very much back and forth, and the New Republic Navy was often on the back foot in many cases when the Imperial remnants or the resurgent Imperial Empire in some cases, depending on where you are in canon, pulled out a lot of Super Star Destroyers or Star Dreadnoughts of many types. And then in canon, after Jakku, they did create new capital ships. We know about the MC-85, the MC-90, the MC-95s. There's variants of these capital ships. We know that they had some sort of Star Destroyer model. We know that they had individual frigate classes. We know they created new X-Wing models, B-Wings, etc. And we know that they had other things, and then they had the Starhawks, which the Starhawks were retrofitted vessels built off of replacement ISD parts that were just really, really tanky and just could take so much blows and do things that's kind of what won them the Battle of Jakku. I'd actually recommend looking at the Battle of Jakku. It's actually
Battle of
pretty
Jakku.
interesting.
I do really like the Battle of Jakku. Yeah.
It's a really fun concept. I love that we're just bringing the oh, for God's sake. Okay, not even getting into it. Premise, back to this. But the things like the Resurgent class, Star Destroyer and that, because we don't have a lot of information, does look to outstrip the New Republic Navy in canon to a large extent. And then the newer TIE fighter models are actually quite impressive. They're shielded, they're hyperdrived, all that kind of stuff. They do all that stuff that we say that they needed to do on the original TIE fighters. But the general thing is that they weren't exactly an efficient. There's not enough in canon to really say, and canon is dealt with the fact that unlike Legends that was organically developing its timeline from Return of the Jedi onwards, Disney decided we're going to jump ahead 40 years and start then which means they are now locked in that the New Republic goes boom in The Force Awakens.
Yep.
So everything in between.
Oh, hold on one moment. Hello, Wheat. Welcome in. Welcome in. Sorry, Spartan. Just greeting a new person. Welcome in. Happy to have you. Happy to have you. We are currently, honestly, the East India Company tree isn't terrible, but it's definitely half baked. I will say, like, I can.
So, yeah, well, we're yapping Star Wars. We're yapping just kind of generally.
Yeah, I'm letting Spartan go on his little tangents.
I'm entertaining stream while she focuses on the game.
While I focus on like unfucking the Raj.
But generally, the
what if I?
No, that was more of a China thing. But
we can do it in Opium War, by the way.
I know the general idea and the general premise of things like the Imperial Navy and all that is just kind of not really concrete in canon, because the First Order can never be put on the back foot or discovered or destroyed prior to the Force Awakens events of the movies, the sequel trilogy, because the Force Awakens make very clear that the larger galaxy did not believe that the First Order existed, that the Imperial remnants were very hardly militarized, and that's the point of the Resistance, because the Resistance is a small group that is counteracting them, and the Resistance isn't under nominal control. Leia's been driven out of politics, all that kind of stuff. That's all established, so they have to deal with that. So the New Republic can never be competent enough to catch the First Order and fight them, while in Legends, the constant consideration was that the Imperial Remnant still existed because they needed a big bad, and they never wanted to destroy the Imperial Remnant because they needed that bad. And therefore, the Star Wars would continue to run that Empire versus Rebel mechanic, later New Republic versus Rebels, later between that Alliance of Free Worlds versus Rebel versus Empire, for as long as they could, because to do so allowed them the greatest amount of
flexibility.
Yeah, flexibility as a story focus.
What a screen name for YouTube.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
Welcome in. I'm just gonna call you Yes. Welcome in. How YouTube let you get away with that one? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's it's Star Wars, not Star Peace. I saw that.
Okay. Nope. Don't say shit like that. That is your one and only warning.
So we're gonna need to do repo eventually.
Repo? Yeah, Ruby got it for me actually.
We're gonna do repo eventually. What I'm talking about here, you also see in Star Wars. Any book set for 2552, at least for the original trilogy, cannot ever contradict the fact that in 2552, the UNSC is on the back foot. Everything is going wrong. Earth gets discovered then, blah, 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 blah. So those stakes, or in certain characters, just don't die. We know they don't die. We know Jacob Keyes doesn't die to C. We know Johnson doesn't die to 3. We know Chief doesn't die, period. We know Halsey doesn't die. If Hood shows up, we know he's not going to die. Every other character they create can be fair game, but that's the same kind of idea. So stories kind of are locked into a certain amount of things. But it is the perspective and story of dealing with things, and we were talking Navy, and I brought up Tempest. So on Anne's point on this idea of AWACS, 6 gens won't be true AWACS birds, i.e. the ability to distribute and detect for an entire fleet, but 6th-gen fighters like Tempest, as it will be called in the British servers, or it's called CGAP, if we want to call it the Combat Global Air Program, Aerospace Program, or Air Program. I can't remember the exact term. But point premise, that Tempest's job is to control drones. It's supposed to be able to data link with all its stuff, create basically a data net to share data, which then will be able to be shared with its fleet. So the carrier, or it's a C, as in like not the as in the letter. It's Combat Global Air Program. C, yeah. Yeah, Global Combat. Oh, I lied. The G's first. GCAP.
GCAP. GCAP.
Yeah. Global Combat Air Program. We have some, and Global Combat Air Program. I apologize. I always get the two letters mixed around, but the point is that this thing is going to be large enough that it's going to be capable to communicate with stuff, and the pilot is expected. And there's going to be a lot of stress on the pilot, but they're going to have to figure out the systems. That's the point. This thing's supposed to be able to control drones, like up to, I think they estimate, they want it to control up to 10 to 16 drones, whether those be FPVs, whether it be 2 wingman drones that then have internally can target out drones from them, or etc. But the general purpose of this is a data linked ship that will be able to share data with its munitions, with its drones, with its naval targets, etc. It's not a true ASWACS, which is designed to do one roll in, one roll out, a completely data dominance, maybe some e-warfare by denying data, long range targeting, much longer range than any modern fighter does, even the F-35 with its really advanced computers, interlinking computers. But 6th gens are very much edging close to that, and I would not surprise me if that, as the program runs, if the technologically allows it, they will try to make just every 6th gen Tempest or the Boeing design its own AWACS bird, because that is a really big advantage to have on a field of battle, because now every single fighter you have in the air can provide data to the entire fleet at long range. And again, that comes down to that idea. Remember I said eliminating things? Well, now we've eliminated the AWACS from need. So now you don't have an AWACS bird, which means you can fit more of these 6th gen fighters, or whatever. Or whatever else you want. You want more helicopters, you want more munitions, you want more people on the ship, supplies, etc. But the as for the Intel I've tried recently, both the Bait and such did a air demonstration protocol. I'm going to pull the article actually here myself. It was a very long thing. It's called, it's from the Royal Air Force themselves. You can find it on, YouTube. It's called Insider Air. It's a RAF podcast. They discussed it, FCAS, GCAP, and then the Tempest team working with the mod, and they also had introduced guests from Leonardo and RR, Rolls-Royce, because Rolls-Royce makes some of the best plane engines you will ever find. Rolls-Royce repping the best engines and fighters since 1936. So it's over an hour long, and someone gave there's a summary that I've used, and as far as I can tell, it's pretty accurate for my own minimal amount of watching I've had them in exam season. There's 250 to 300 tri-national staff working face-to-face on dozens of threads of requirements. It's not going to be BVR only for those uninitiated. BVR means beyond visual range. So what that would mean that it wouldn't be carrying any guns to defend itself at close range. It would be only capable of doing things beyond the sight of your eyes. So missiles and that. They specifically don't want to make the mistake that the F4 Phantom made and sacrifice the agility of the plane for performance. There's, as much as some people in this channel and other guys in here, including a funny man named Wiki, who's been on here more than once, is a fan of the Phantom, and I'm not saying it looks bad, but there's a reason it was called the fat truck, or the fat bus, or like a ton of other unflattering names that made it described to be like unagile and ugly looking, because it was not a very turnable aircraft. So but based on the limited information we have, it's going to be VVR biased with some WVR, so within visual range capability. The best way to describe it, as some people have summarized it, because this person summarized it was American, I believe. They summarized it as, it will be more of a coordinated quarterback than a thug like the Typhoon. Because the Typhoon, especially in air defense role, carried a lot of munitions, had a lot of them, and would just absolutely just murder you in close or close.
Wiki,
it was
wiki.
a thug.
Sorry, Sheer said to say Wiki's name a couple more times.
Yeah. Wiki, 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 wiki.
Wiki!
We'll summon them eventually. So computer capability is critical. To the point that this thing is carrying a server rack to process the vast quality of data that they expect to be gathered by the deep generating FCAS networks that it's going to have. They want it to have a massive amount of range. And when I say range, like the range, as put by the person I put it here, I'm quoting, range, and even more range. Maybe get across the Atlantic to America as an indicator of magnitude. For the uninitiated, that would mean that for the uninitiated, or kind of like people that aren't as close into this kind of stuff as Ann and I, that would generally mean that this thing is carrying the same fuel capacity as the current B-2 bombers or B-1 Lancers, long-range strategic bombers that are designed to do this role, and this is going to be a fighter. The Orpheus engine demonstrator, yes, it's called that, is for FCAS in general, not solely GCAP, because the Rolls-Royce recently demonstrated their newest engine, the Orpheus engine design, and it's quite impressive. They want it to be exportable without exports. However, because it's a real Air Force podcast, they were talking British economy. It's still going to contribute an estimated $37 billion to the the UK economy, which is quite impressive. They're targeting a 10-year development period, and some people have estimated this is going to be a technological challenge compared to the Apollo program, because you're looking at a 10-year period to make a lot of leaps in technology very quickly. So this is the best. The Apollo program is perhaps the best example you can look at as an example. The payload is expected to be twice that of an F-35A, and it's expected to be a single seat WSO rather than a single seat pilot. So it's going to have a pilot and a weapons system officer. That's what WSO means. That's the person in the back that controls things for weaponry and long range. So that kind of influenced me that this thing is going to be pretty large, and it's expected. Not a lot of 5th gens in the modern world currently have multi-crew. That's kind of down to the American bias against multi-crew fighters. The best example I can give is the F-22 Raptor won over it's rumored, we haven't ever confirmed it, those documents aren't declassified yet, of course, they won't be for a while, that the F-22 directly won over for 2 reasons. One, that the Lockheed Martin was able to demonstrate weapons active, unlike Grumman, for its YF-23. So the YF-22 had that going for it. On top of that, the Air Force was still in the mentality that agility. So the fact that the YF-22 was more agile in BVR mattered a lot more to the Air Force general and the Air Force staff that had come up in Vietnam, where this idea of close range ability was a big thing that they needed when the Navy never lost that, which is why we had the development of advanced Air Force programs to help with that. And then the Grumman design, the YF-23, was much more what we're describing now, this BVR biased missile truck that was really betting on this idea that the future of warfare would be missiles. And that has been proven right, because none of the current 5th gens in service have ever, besides the Raptor on a balloon, has ever had to use its guns, and the only thing they do in the case of the F-35s is missile strikes and bomb strikes from such a long distance that you don't even see them. Regarding the payload statement, assuming the payload capacity of the F-35 is about 8,160 kilograms. That's about 18,000 pounds, which sounds about right. That's commonly reported. That's commonly reported, but we know, less is a little more, a little less. It all depends. The Sea Gap should have a capability of 16,320 kilograms or 36,000 pounds, which is 220 kilograms or 500 pounds greater than the reported payload capability of the FB-111A, which would make sense because we have had rumors that the GCAP fighter will be in that size range. For those of you that don't know, the FB-111A, 111A is the Aardvark. Yeah, the Aardvark. So, so the Japanese government released the Japanese Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry released their progress on the implementation of the aerospace industry strategy, which is related to GCAP. So design completion is expected by 2027, so 2 years from now. Prototype phase from 2025 to 32. 29 to 35 is ground testing, and then 30 to 35 is flight testing. So minimum flight, if the program goes a little faster, you're looking at first prototype operability around 2029, which in my opinion would put them ahead of the Boeing program, simply because Boeing is starting from scratch with this, because Boeing, I will be honest, the NGAD program has received so many delays and other issues with it in the past 5 years that there is no way that Boeing has anything, unlike Tempest and the F2 that the Japanese had, and then a little bit of the Italian stuff that exists in this program that were involved. They did not have a clear vision, unlike those 3 programs that then merged into this one.
Let's do the death knell of the Raj. Let's kill it.
So the
Right.
yeah, who knows in the well, Hedgehog, I got one. My house once got buzzed by an F-22 Raptor at low level. That was fun. Like, when I say low level, I mean close enough that I saw the undercarriage. It wasn't a 15 because it didn't. The wing shape was wrong. It was a 22. There used to be. I'm Canadian, but there used to be a joint air show between myself and the cities, the American cities across the water. And each year we do an air show. The Canadian Air Force and the American Air Force would participate. I think the occasional Navy aircraft that was up here on training for the Americans, and then eventually that kind of just money dried up. People stopped donating. I don't think there's been one in 5 years. Like I don't think there was one 2-3 years prior to COVID, which is kind of sad. It was a very good air show. I go watch it every year. So I'm looking forward.
I am trying to kill the Raj, but it is. I
mean, this makes no sense because the British would never
let this happen. Yeah.
No, they would never let the fucking East India Company exist again.
Yeah, like there's a reason it stopped existing. Starters. Also, I have 10 factories, but so why can't I buy more from the Raj?
Do they have it to export, or is someone else already buying it? Hover over the trade meter.
No, I
hover over the takeover thing. What does it say? You have to have more than one civilian. You have more than one civilian. You currently only have one civilian factory available. See? More than one. And it's gonna say, well, you're gonna say you have 10, but those are trade, not controlled. Trade doesn't count towards controlled. It's another reason. Again, another example of paradox spaghetti code. If you've ever, prior to the rework of the German focus tree, Sudetenland and doing parts of Sudetenland didn't require you to have to own the Sudetenland, like it did, or control it through a peace deal. All it meant was that you had ownership of the state, which meant if you did the thing, controlled it, you could bypass parts of the German folk history to do other parts that you shouldn't technically be able to do, and or complete that section of the German folk history, therefore completing things and getting a ton of advantages. This is most famously demonstrated in a Bo Cohen video when the France player created a faction with the Czechs, then left the faction, joined the Allies, locking and having, because the Germans were then at war with the Czechs, they just held the war with the Czechs and invaded the rest of the European continent with as much as they could get before the British finally and the French finally were able to get into the war, and then they were swiftly crushed because the now overpowered Axis with very skilled militaries was able to just dominate the already established sphere. HoI has a lot of spaghetti code.
Spaghetti.
Almost as much as Arma.
I want to start producing like some basic destroyers just for coastal defense. Just for simple coastal defense.
Yeah, the good old naked destroyers, as we call them.
The little nub between. Well, honestly, the goal is to just make it so that way the Raj has fewer than 5 states, so that way I can just, you know, kill the Raj.
Yeah, I'm a. For those of you that were wondering why I can do these type of rants, outside of Anne and I's fields are very similar to each other, so we end
up talking a lot.
Yeah, but
they differ in certain areas, or in key areas, but you know they also overlap quite heavily.
Yeah, as I consistently say, we probably both know what we're talking about once we explain it, but the terms we use to describe it are completely different.
Oh yeah.
Like Anne will consistently use multipolar or multinational relationships when talking about a certain concept because she's in the political side sphere. We don't refer to them as that in the historical field. Well, we do, but that's really when you get overlap with the you're studying political science in a historical sense.
And international.
9 times out of 10, we're just saying like, you know, the U.S. had a very U.S. first approach during this time period. The U.S. had a very whatever approach in this time period. Yeah, also as Ghost said, don't forget that little butt between the ball.
Yeah, I know. As I said to Ghost, once I get the Raj like down to 4 statelets, I can, or excuse me, 4 states, I can just get the whole damn subcontinent. And then I get all of their civilian factories and la la la.
Where are you seeing Typhoons and F-15s? Like, if it was just bees and typhoons, that would be like that would make sense in like the UK, Lake District. What country? The US? Or is it a? I do not recommend that name. Recognize. Sorry, apologies.
Give it.
Oh, like oh, yeah, that would make sense. Because yeah, that would.
Num 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 num.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about. No, I'm Canadian. I occasionally I get a lot of where I live. I get a lot of Chinooks over me. Chinooks, little birds, occasional old. Well, they're not HoIs. They're based on the HoI platform.
No, no.
Our Coast Guard uses them for patrol. Apaches? Not really. Unless there's a training exercise in northern Michigan, we don't really get very heavily militarized aircraft. I live in Ontario, so they occasionally will pass through Canadian airspace as a cutoff if they're coming from New England or such. Just makes it easier, and well, of course, they're usually without getting into current politics, they're usually allowed to sit at our bases and refuel. So, how long that will last?
This is such a cursed timeline. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. I just want everyone to know this. I am purely just doing stupid shit. I don't. What is this tech? What is this DLC? What is this? Like, we're about to have World War II, and I don't even know, man. It is just... It's cursed. It is just cursed. Okay, so if I buy one more state, I think...
Dallas might get the occasional military flight, but it's rare.
Hi, Overheat. Am I winning? I don't fucking know is my answer to that, to be honest with you. I have no clue what the hell is happening. Okay. Okay, can I take it now? What do you control?
Sri Lanka.
There we go. Death and of the Raj. Let's do it. Be sure not to raise my tax. I know! Don't backseat me.
Raise your tax bracket.
Yeah, my tax bracket's fine, actually.
My tax bracket sucks sometimes.
What can I even do?
What? Just decline. You don't gotta enter the war. It doesn't hurt you.
Yeah, seriously. What the hell am I supposed to do? This is a really bad tree. And apparently this is the least bad one.
Go look at the, go click on the Persians.
Which
Iran.
Yeah.
Iran.
Iran, let's see here. What do you guys got?
Yeah, Iran.
It looks like they've gone down paths, so I can't see.
Yeah, we'll look at it. Well, you can turn that off in settings next time we play. You can stop it from auto closing everything.
Okay. Production. I'm gonna just pay a normal amount. Just because now at this point we want to keep stuff. Just give me the subcontinent. Come on. Come on. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give me the subcontinent. Na 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 na. Na na na. Noises of boredom. Just good business. Yeah, manipulation. Mwahaha. We're gonna temporarily put you there. We don't have an anti-air. Crap. That's right. I don't... What is... I just... With emphasis on the comedic idea of managing a tax bracket on HoI4. It just... I'm playing a... This is a World War II game, right? This is a World War II game. And I can't enter World War II. Because if I enter World War II, I die. Not because I'm not ready. Not because, like... Not because I'm not ready of my own merit. But because... This tree...
Because the tree isn't designed to work with World War II, and if you go on historical, you won't even get to do the tree because the game's going to end in World War II is going to start in 1937.
Yeah, so it's like, what the hell? What the hell am I supposed to do? As I was saying earlier, like, this really screws a lot of things up, because India, in many games, in many multiplayer games, at least the multiplayer games I've attended, has served as, like, the counterweight to Japan until the United States gets involved. Like, India is what allows the, India also provides a lot of support in other key areas, like North Africa, and especially Ethiopia. So, like, to just kind of castrate India like this is horrible. Horrible. That is horrible. It's not the end of the world, but that is a horrible idea. Horrible idea. Plain and simple. My phone's dead, I think. It is. Hold on. Time to charge it. Leave the penguins alone. No, we must tariff the penguins. Okay. We must tariff the penguins. All tariffs. All tariffs. Okay, look, if I wanted to play a game where I was managing, and where I'm managing politics and the economy, right? If I want that, if I wanted that, I just play fucking Vicky. Alright, I'm gonna be honest here. Part of why I've been I brought Spartan on to Ramble is because I am bored. I am bored as fuck. I've done nothing. Normally I have a lot of fun in the HoI4, like, pre-war management shit. I'm fucking bored. Because you stay in the allies, but you're still neutered. Because you're only just now, like... I mean, first off, if you get your economy off the ground, it's just like, oh, you, guess what? You're gonna get screwed over, for being good at the game. With your little debt bracket. Right? And then... Again, you're just... Now I can finally start playing the damn game. Problem: it's September of 1939. Poland is falling, and I've been called in, and I would have been called into the war, but I had to decline. This is so bad. It is so bad, so bad, so bad. Ugh. I don't even know what to do.
You just kind of sit here, build up your military, and then eventually fight them. As for any like multiplayer games, 90% of multiplayer games that are actually serious about it being a multiplayer game are gonna run um, mods, anyways,
Yeah, thankfully.
to to change the gameplay. Like they're not gonna
Like,
run the they're not gonna they're like so the Raj tree is just gonna get like
just
changed completely. It's just
like,
gonna get nerfed out of existence.
yeah,
It's the
like,
same with the current German tree and all that. Like very few lobbies run a vanilla game
yeah.
anymore, and that's because they do not know what.
Just for reference, we have been streaming for 2 hours. We have done nothing. So fuck this. I have, yes, Graveyard of Empires is that bad. I've tried apparently the most redeemable focus tree. Fuck this. I am going to play a country that's actually fun. Or you know what? You know what, guys? Fuck it. Let's go to Warno. Warno's actually fun. Let's go play Warno. One moment. But until I didn't even buy several random islands. I don't want to. I don't want to. I want to actually like enjoy myself, and I've just been sitting here just, well, my phone's dead, so I can't use my model, but I'm just kind of sitting here like, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna wait, and then I'm gonna wait some more. I'm gonna wait and wait and then wait and then occasionally click a thing and then wait some more and boring. It's boring. Okay, 1 second. Launching Warno. I started yawning mid sentence. No war for you. You must buy the Azores. No, I can't go to war anymore. I'm afraid. Okay. Warno. Cha 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 cha.
There's a lot of issues with the new DLC, and like what you just described is one of them, but there are more.
I know there are more. Apparently, this is the least egregious of them. And if this is the least if my complaints just now were the least egregious of the problems, I don't want to keep playing. I'm gonna switch over to Warno.
Let's put it this way. One of the biggest issues right now is Burma got separated from the Raj, right? So did Sri Lanka and a few other locations. And they've also added other locations to the Raj and made some new puppets in other areas for the British. Except they didn't update the Imperial Federation for this, so these nations are unaffected by the Imperial Federation, even though it says they're supposed to be, like their territory is supposed to be, which is breaking the Imperial Federation focus tree, part of the focus tree, which is weakening the British if you go down that route, therefore making one of the end games for like multiple paths for the British.
You gonna work for me, bud?
Not working.
There we go.
Fun.
There we go.
Anymore. It's just a very bad section of gameplay at the moment for anyone that plays.
Yeah, no, it is terrible. It doesn't even add any features that are like meaningful too.
No, it works off already established feature. It was very much a micro DLC, and it's kind of sad because if you go look at the recent Stellaris patch newses, like they're talking about completely reworking this entire Stellaris like code base so that they can interact with the so that they can redo it so that it's more fun for players.
No, it's been months since I played, so I'm gonna do like rookie folder gap just so I can get myself back into it. The trees are less bad for the game than the India tree. They're just boring. I mean, the India tree is definitely the most. Spartan's right. Yeah, you're gonna need to like run a modded game if you want to I mean, you need to run modded game. You already needed to run a modded game, but you're especially gonna need to run a modded game if you like want an India player, because again, India in every single like multiplayer game I've played that has like a full lobby, right? In every single one. Oh, the volume's fucked. Hold on.
I now commit OSHA violations with actual missiles.
Yeah. The problem, as I was saying, like the problem I've got is just like, oh, hello. Right. Let's tack this. India is the counterweight. So, or not, more just like the guy that, you know, serves as the meat shield until the Americans get in. Right? Well, this is interesting. I guess they changed the Fulda map. Let's do it. So, we're gonna be going up against T80s and stuff. Well, for starters, I know for a fact we need that air. No, we don't want that. We want the AT, want the AA, at least one AA. I'm gonna be playing fast and loose with the Bradleys and have like a little bit of support from the Abrams. That's what I think I'm gonna do.
Ready, sir.
Ooh. How close is that to there?
It's about 100k ink. I muted there for a second. I don't know if you noticed.
Yes, I know. I noticed.
It's because someone came up to me in game. I sent a message in chat. I'm playing Star Citizen at the moment for those while I'm talking and studying because I've just been kind of chilling. While I study for my exam tomorrow at 7 p.m. And the general thing has there's these guys up they're holding up the event, and I mentioned one of them. Hey, I'm just here to salvage. I'm not trying to do the event. Blah 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 blah. I just want to pop by, take clear up destroyed ships, you know. And they're like, that's fine. One of them flies
Okay.
up who says, by the way, we're fine with you doing it, but you got to pay us 100k. And I'm like,
What?
meh. Yeah, literal extortion racket. They said, oh, you know, for protection. If you don't pay it, you know, there's no protection. Something bad might happen. So I meted up to talk with the guy and get him his payment, right? And I got him his payment, no issue. You know, no issue with me. Like that's, I'm gonna be honest with anyone unpronunciated. If you up your bounty rank, which is not hard, if you have a combat ship or like a decent ship, starter ship, the Avenger is really good at combat. So is the Nomad, another starter ship. Even the Aurora can get away with it if you know what you're doing. Or if you just skip over those and I just want to do bounty, you get the Arrow or the Gladius, you are literally fine. You build up your bounty rep, and then if you go to a location called Pyro, Pyro has Pyro has like is just you can make 100k off of a single bounty in Pyro. So and I have many combat ships. I was not worried. I have
Okay.
I have
Gonna get a PVADS, a Stinger for each group. PVADS. And we have. We're gonna do.
there's many combat missions around here.
We're gonna do Bradley. We need a CPC
so
here.
I can make 111k off one of that, and they're letting me salvage components for that 100k. Some of these components are 23k a pop. I found 4 missiles that are worth 23k a pop. So if you do the math, I've almost just from that I've gotten my money back.
Okay, so we're gonna want to kind of cloister around here.
We'll deploy at this position.
You go there. Okay, let's see.
At your orders.
I'm gonna move you to here very quickly, and you're just gonna hide here. PVADs. PVADs is also gonna hide here.
I'm listening, Captain.
I'm gonna put the Stinger
Bring us there,
there.
taxi. Waiting for instructions.
Dragon. I'm gonna perch them up in that tower so they have a better view of everything.
I'm listening, Captain.
I want someone there to protect the Hem and the PVAD, so I'll leave
And
you
the
there.
you know what's funny? The people I just paid 100K to,
Uh-huh.
they just got murked by another group, and that other group just flew off when they saw me.
It's actually kind of funny.
Hello. Stars. Like, if I was in my combat ship, I probably could have won that fight, but I wasn't. So, Mustangs.
Bring us there,
Cockpit's
taxi.
available. Okay, I gotta get in and unlock its ports.
Transportation core ready.
And then the guys just told me, someone in
Well,
chat, because I mentioned I'm doing this whole like component cleaning up. Basically what I do is I go down, I take the components off the ships, and then I completely kill the ships. When you do that, the ships then detonate to which prevents
Waiting for instructions,
lag
sir.
because you've destroyed the ship.
We can't go any faster than that. Engine is
So
running.
I'm
We're waiting.
doing that as I just fly around the area, blow up the ships, take the components. And each of those guns might be worth a certain amount of money.
Should have grabbed the mortars. Whatever.
M5s. Those are arresters, though. Those are worth something. Those are worth like 40K each.
Is there anything left? Oh, there's still some dismount troopers there. Okay.
Enemy spotted.
Where? Oh, boy. Okay.
Said salvage is why I have like
Bring us there, taxi.
about a dozen unsecured missiles in my cargo hold.
Ground control. Hit. Enemy spotted. 9-4. Huh.
Well, the Soviet death stack has arrived.
Well, if we can ever
Out of ammo.
Oh, crap.
upgrade your CPU for you, man.
Beware. Commies nearby.
Crap.
Well, anytime soon.
Hold on.
I've got him. Hot auf Einsatzbefehl. Enemy spotted. Ready to pound them, sir. 10 degrees up. Fire. Enemy spotted. He's right dead. War Daddy to red leader. Out of ammo.
Dang it.
Okay.
Just, early death stack.
Trotzdem bereit. Loud and clear. Be careful. Enemies nearby. Mich habt erwischt.
The back of my Zeus looks like that cargo plane in the
Luftraum zu heiß. Ich bin raus.
Lord of War.
Oh!
Yes, Captain.
Random death stack right there! Okay. Get that. I want...
Shoot that man out of the sky.
Enemy spotted. Legenzone.
Go, 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 go.
I have the stream just quiet enough so that I hear you, but I don't actually hear myself, which is great.
Winchester, fliege zurück zum 9 auf 1, hier 4, Ziel
Only a
zerstört.
T-55? Really?
I am listening, Captain.
Oh, this Abrams is dead. Oh, it's not.
Everybody, comics, right up. Assault formation, on me.
Okay.
Fall back. We've got them.
And Stella, what type of soup did I have? What type of soup? Oh, I had a spicy chicken tortilla. Soup. It was good.
Comics, right up. Get in formation. I've got him! Waiting for fire coordinates. Enemy spotted! Adjusting on target. Yes, Captain. HE loaded. Ready to fire. Ready to pound them, sir. Degrees up. Fire. Need a ride? Bring us there, taxi. At your orders, Captain. Enemy nearby. Protect the gun. Yes, they spotted us! Waiting for orders. We get
Dang
shot
it.
at! All back.
This Abrams is dead.
Yes, sir. HE loaded. Ready to fire. It always comes fire and maneuver. Enemy spotted! Waiting for air or ground target. Need some extra eyes, sir? Radio check. Red 1-6. Over. Comics, right up. Get in formation. Auf wen haben Sie es abgesehen?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Your spoon is too big? Huh?
They spotted us! Enemy nearby. Protect the gun. Hit! Wir Knight 4. Voll aufmunitioniert und gestartet. Ende. Ryan, get down. Hier Adler 1. Ich sorge für Luftüberlegenheit. Hier Knight 4. Hit!
Mm-hmm.
Bestätige Wirkung im Ziel.
Ah, there goes the dismount troopers.
Get in formation. Ready to fire. Winchester, fliege zurück zum neuen Aufmunitionieren.
Gotcha.
Knight 4, hört. Ready, sir.
Ah.
Commies, right up. Get in formation. Rottenführer auf Empfang. Waiting for instruction. Fall back. Enemy spotted. I'm running out of ammo. Tank ready. Reverse, but keep facing the enemy.
Be careful. Enemies nearby.
Night 4, warte auf Einsatzbefehl. Hit! I've got him!
Fulda might have been a bad call. I was already pretty mediocre at the game. It might have been a bad call to start with Fulda, even on rookie.
Yes, sir. Backpedal, now! Waiting for fire coordinates. Verdammt! Winchester, fliege zurück zum neuen Ein. Luftnahe Unterstützung bereit. To all units, enemy sighted. Fahren Sie fort, Ground Control. Feindkontakt, Raketen scharf. Hit! Enemy spotted! Ryan, get down! Luftraum zu heiß, ich bin raus!
Whew.
One less copy.
Yeah, I should probably switch to like Bruderkrieg so I can. I'm a little over. I'll admit I'm a little overwhelmed. I should probably switch back. I should probably switch to Bruderkrieg. To Okay. I should probably switch to Bruderkrieg just simply so I can. And my phone is still taking. It's taking so long to charge. I should probably switch over to Bruderkrieg just simply so that so I can get back into the game proper instead of being an absolute buffoon. Ba, ba, ba. Warsaw Pack plays first. Yep, I remember this. Here we go. They changed all the maps. I mean, not a terrible idea since they did kind of heavily favor NATO, but I mean this one does too, frankly. But yeah. Okay. Ooh, I'm gonna turn this into Bradley Central. This is gonna be.
Ready, sir. Radio check. Red 1-6. Over. Yes, Captain.
Da, da, da.
I am listening, Captain. Ready, sir. Need some extra eyes, sir.
I want this Bradley here. Okay, now we're gonna do AA, AT. We want the hem truck.
Yes,
We want the
Captain.
hem truck, which will move here.
Full throttle.
Heave adds,
Waiting
which
for instructions.
will station here. We'll do another hem truck.
Where do you want it delivered?
Kind of
Fresh delivery.
this general direction. Ooh, I should probably garrison something to watch that.
Yes, Captain. Yes, Captain.
Gonna put that there. And then, mortars. When y'all
Gun ready, sir.
could be right around here. Okay, we're ready. Let's go. Let's do this! Alright, see you in a second, Hedgehog. Ah, frames. Look at this guy. Look at him. He's so cute. Anger issues. Nice. Okay. Phone is only at... okay. Phone is only at 22%. Love seeing that. Love seeing that. Okay. Alright.
My phone's so old it has only 71% of the usage of the battery. So I've lost 29% of the battery's life over its overuse.
Ground control. Enemy spotted.
Bunk.
Enemy spotted. Bestätige Wirkung im Ziel.
So far, so good.
I've got him. Ready to fire. Enemy spotted. HE loaded. Ready to fire.
See how these guys do.
System ausfallen. Auf Empfang. Nein, 4 hört.
The little Soviet death stack that could. It's about to die.
9-4. Warte auf Einsatzbefehl. Bestätige Wirkung im Ziel. Sergeant Highway is hit. Bin im Luftraum. Hit. Negenzone. Bestätige Wirkung im Ziel. Enemy spotted. Winchester. Fliege zurück zum 1 und dem 4.
Oh!
Zerstört.
Bang!
4-9.
This is the importance of air superiority, everyone. Surprised, genuinely surprised we haven't heard anything from the Soviet Air Force. We are playing on a...
Enemy spotted. They spotted us. Hit. 9-4. Warte auf Einsatzbefehl.
Oh shit, hello.
Bestätige. Mission erhalten. Zerschlagen Ziel. Loud and clear.
Didn't even notice. Oh, come on.
Fluggeschwindigkeit erreicht.
Wilco, out. Be careful. Enemies nearby.
I've got
I
him!
don't even know if we hit anything.
Triebwerk ausgefallen! Waiting for orders. Enemy spotted! Triebwerk ausgefallen! Luftnahunterstützung bereit. Hit!
Yeah. Let's get these Abrams out here. Hope they make it in time, too.
Do you have a hit? Adjusting on target. Hit! I've got him! Waiting for instruction. Yes, Captain. Enemy spotted. Hit!
Da.
To all units, enemy sighted. War Daddy to Red Leader. I am all back. Waiting for fire coordinates. 10 degrees up. Fire. Waiting for instructions. Enemy, I hear you loud and clear.
Want to know where these guys are running around.
Recon unit at your orders.
Gonna move you back here.
War Daddy to Red Leader. I'm listening. Enemy spotted.
Oh, shit.
Damn, that was close. I've got him. Night 4. Hand auf Einsatzbefehl. Successful hit. Go back. Slow. To all units. Successful hit. Waiting for instructions. Triebwerk ausgefallen.
Oh, you're... Really?
Ground control.
Okay, hold on. Where is this? So I can smack it.
This is Red 2. Enemy spotted. Hier Night 4.
There you are.
Payload wird im Ziel abgeworfen. Hab Systemausfall. Winchester, zu heiß. Muss abbrechen.
Where'd it go?
Yes, Captain. Triebwerk ausgefallen. Enemy spotted. Successful hit. Erwarte Anweisung.
Evac you. Alright, they're all up in the back line, which is annoying.
I hear you loud and clear. Full throttle. They spotted us! Waiting for order. Hit! Enemy spotted. We can't take it anymore!
Dang it.
I've got him! Hit! Waiting for instructions. Hit!
Thing.
All ammo spent. It will be faster on the road. At your orders.
I'm still laughing over the fact that those guys got immediately murdered after I paid them. That is instant karma.
Instant karma.
They like, without naming the guy, they were also trying to. They said I could either pay or follow them on Twitch, and I was like, oh my god, is this how we do it? Legitimate extortion? Is that how we get big on Twitch these days?
Yes.
So I was like, I'm just gonna, I'll pay him. I paid him the money, and then I just watched the Polaris he was in get destroyed, and
Okay, where is 41%? Okay, I'll take it. Let's turn the model back on. Oh, good God, it's hot.
yeah, probably because you were charging it.
No. It's hot in here. I mean,
Oh,
yeah. No, it's...
Good job, Gunner.
opportunity for flirty joke I will not make.
Yes. Do not take that opportunity.
This is Red 2.
Let someone in chat do it.
Spotted. Moving at full speed.
Yeah, in total, Anne, I found some components you can't even buy anymore. But on
Oh,
sale,
that's
they're
good.
worth like the drive alone that I got here, this Crossfield, is worth more than what I paid by 90K on the average player market. So
Well, we won. 70-11. Love to see it.
Tally 2. Okay, he's got a missile off. Good hit on one.
last thing I need to pull from the cargo bay. Then it's jumping to pyro.
Man, we've already been streaming for 2 hours. Time flies. Well, it flies for you guys. It did not fly for me for most of it. Yep, I know. We're gonna hold at Breitenbach. Move that there. Next turn. I think I'm gonna do one more battle and then I'm gonna call it for the day, just simply because it's been a bit of a day and I'm tired. And I also have a paper to work on, so you know. I will eventually do a long-term stream though. Eventually. Sometime soon. Question mark. Dun, 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 dun.
Salvaging isn't about the money you can make right now, because CIG had to disable in-game selling of components, because the current claim system just allows you to, basically what you can do is if you can set your self-destruct in your hangar, blow your ship up, claim it, and then back in the day, you could sell the parts off the ship that you just destroyed for profit. So they've now disabled the pricing on components is like down to like nothing. Like they cost like 100,000 to buy, you can get 500 back. So you can't make any money off salvaging, but you can save a lot of money by salvaging components that you need.
Okay. Back's turn.
Like the Fort Panthers I found alone were worth 160K, so that's profit. The drive 190, that's profit. Power supplies, profit. Country revolting from central authority. Increased trade with Macedonia, maybe. Check that one.
We don't want the city to get encircled, so we're actually gonna deploy you guys right here. Next. All right, let's do this. Last battle of the day. Wait. Oh, some leopard ones. Cool. I'm gonna be honest. I'm starting to have a fucking nasty crash energy-wise, like, as we speak. How long have we been going for? Depending on how long. We've been going for about 3 hours, so I'm actually gonna stop here. I'm sorry, guys. I've just got a lot going on, so I have not been able to stream as often or as long as I want. So with that said, I'm gonna go.
Yes, chat. We also gotta bully her to sleep better.
All right. Hey, I actually got a good night's sleep. Anyways,
You sent me that at 8 in the morning your time.
what?
Nothing. Talking about the other night.
Yeah, the other night. All right. Cheers, all. Have a good one.